biggest game changers for my mornings has been pre-made breakfasts. I'm going to do 3 pre-made breakfasts today, and my goal is to do it. Our power went out yesterday, and so my clock is going off, but it is finally cooling down. In Michigan, we're going to be using some seasonal ingredients. I'm going to be using butternut squash and some pumpkin. We are going to be doing a breakfast casserole with butternut squash, some kind of like a biscuit, stuffed biscuit situation, and then we will be doing my classic 3 ingredient, well today it's gonna be 4 ingredients, but 3 ingredient oatmeal cottage cheese pancakes, because those are so simple and so fun. The goal is to do this in 45 minutes. Let's get going. I'm going to go ahead and pre-brown any meat that I need to do. I was going to do ground chicken sausage, but I found this 80% lean, 20% fat beef and pork patties. I'll show that to you, but as you can see, I got it last night at the grocery store. I went to the grocery store at like 8 o'clock last night, and they had these there for 60% off, $2.40. So obviously they're about to go bad, so I want to get them cooked up today. And I'm just gonna lay these directly onto the pan, and I will add the seasonings and everything later. So I know this isn't technically like breakfast sausage, but you don't necessarily need to just use breakfast sausage. I'm going to be using half of this for the stuffed biscuits, and then the other half I'm going to be using for the breakfast casserole with the squash. Actually gonna use a spatula to go ahead and transfer this. Then I'm gonna just season it with some pepper and then a little bit of salt. I am using a very small butternut squash that I'm going to peel and dice while that meat browns. Peeled and diced a butternut squash because usually I buy them pre-diced in the frozen section, but these were such a good deal that I had to buy them. And I, as you can see by the Band-Aid on my finger, I cut myself while I was trying to peel it. So I do not peel the way that I'm peeling because obviously it was not safe. But yeah, just peeling it up, and then I'm going to chop it into as close to cubes or quarters as possible, and then you will see what I do next. I love to stock up on any kind of winter vegetable because right now they're so cheap. I find that I find the best deals on just about anything during Thanksgiving season. All of October and November. Thanksgiving is much more of like a food-centric holiday. So this is really the best time to start like stocking up on things, getting good deals as any kind of ham or pork or turkey meat tends to be a really good price this time of year. And I like to stock up on those things and throw them in the freezer. A month ago, I made a turkey. I made like ground turkey stuff. I made a bunch of ground turkey things out of a turkey that I had bought for during Thanksgiving last year. Drain off as much fat as I can from the ground beef and sausage. Oops. Yeah, that's something that was gonna happen. There's kind of 2 reasons that I want to do this. One is this is going to kind of help not make this like a super fatty, high calorie breakfast. And then also this is going to keep my sausages and things from being super soggy, because any added moisture we kind of want to avoid, because anything with eggs and stuff, the added moisture just to me gives it like not the greatest texture. I'm letting this cool off on a clean towel on a plate. I started on the bacon now, and I'm using center cut bacon because center cut bacon has a little bit more protein, a little bit lower calorie. It's definitely a little bit more expensive. So it just kind of depends on if it's within your budget, or even if your concern is having more protein, because if that's not your concern, then you don't even obviously have to deal with it. So I'm going to use both my kind of flat top skillet and my cast iron to get as much of this done as quickly as possible. Cube my butternut squash, chop up some onion and a couple of peppers.
I want to try some.
You want to try some of the seeds? All right, let me get. I can put them in a bowl for you. These are actually super good for you.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not going to use the seeds for anything, so you can just eat them.
What is this part?
That is just this is like the actual squash. Like actual veggie.
Oh, the bar. What's the back?
What do you mean the back?
No, this one.
Yeah, that's like the bottom. See, it has like that on there. I'm not going to use that. After putting the butternut squash in the oven for about 30 minutes at 400 degrees, I am chopping up the onions and then a few peppers. The onions are going to be both for the biscuit and for the breakfast casserole, and the butternut squash is just going to be for the casserole. I'm using 2 peppers and then just 1 whole onion that I'm splitting between the 2 breakfasts. I am shredding up 2 potatoes to put into the breakfast biscuit. You can totally just use pre-made hash browns. The big thing when you are shredding your own hash browns is to make sure you're drying them off really well with a towel, because again, you don't want to add any extra moisture. And if you've ever shredded your own potatoes, you know it's very moist. Sorry for having to use that word. I just had to use it. And so yeah, just shredding that up. I'm going to cook the hash browns on my cast iron skillet. And what's kind of nice is that I still have some leftover bacon grease from when I was just making the bacon, so I don't even really have to add any kind of oil. So I'm going to fry them up until they're nice and decently crispy, not completely fully cooked because they'll finish cooking in the oven. All of that is all happening over there on my stove and in my oven. I'm going to make these really quick this is actually 4 ingredients, but usually it's just 3 ingredients cottage cheese pancake. I am making a double batch, which I will say that these don't make a lot. So one recipe probably only makes about 12 3-inch pancakes, but you really only need 1 or 2 for breakfast, especially for a toddler or a kid, because they are so filling and full of fiber. Every time I make this, it's a little bit different. I usually use the same ratios. I just will make it bigger. So I usually do a cup of oats, a cup of cottage cheese, 2 eggs, and then this time I'm adding the pumpkin to it, so it's going to be a little more wet. I'm going to add a little more oats to this dish, or I'm adding a little more oats to this pancake recipe because I'm adding the pumpkin. I'm just throwing it all in a blender, which is another aspect of it that makes it so easy. And as you can see, my toddler can also help me make it. And this is optional, but I usually like to add some vanilla and some cinnamon. I don't add any sugar to this because we usually put maple syrup on top of it anyway, so I don't really see the point of adding sugar to it. And then you just fry it up on top of the skillet. It really is just such an easy breakfast recipe. To assemble the stuffed biscuits, I am taking 1 tube of the jumbo flaky biscuits from Aldi, and I am just slicing each one in half. When that is done, I will be arranging them on my casserole dish. Then I'm taking the center cut bacon that I just fried up, and I'm taking about 1 slice of bacon per sandwich, just breaking them apart. I made the bacon super crispy because I just feel like it's easier to eat when it's crispy as opposed to when you bite into it and then like a whole piece of bacon just comes out of your sandwich. I hate when that happens. So I made it nice and crispy for that reason. So each sandwich got probably the equivalent of one strip of bacon. Then I'm adding a pretty hefty portion of the sausage and ground beef mixture and just putting that in clumps on, again, each sandwich portion. I'm scrambling up 3 eggs with just a little bit of half and half mixed in there, and then before I pour that over top of my sandwiches, I am just topping the meat with some of the hash browns that I made. As you can see, the hash browns are pretty crispy. They are all getting topped with some hard cheddar cheese. The egg mixture just goes right over on top of all of the sandwiches, and you just have to make sure that the egg is evenly spread out throughout the whole casserole dish. And this makes it so much easier than having to pre-make the eggs, as opposed you just put it all in the oven all together and it cooks up really, really nicely. You just have to make sure. So as you can see, what I'm doing right now is just spreading that egg mixture, just making sure it's evenly getting throughout the whole casserole dish. The final step to this is just topping off every sandwich with the other half of the biscuit. And then you just cook it in the oven using the same instructions that are on the biscuit tube. Our final step is the breakfast casserole, which is kind of the biggest one. What I'll probably do is cut it in half when I'm done and freeze half and then put the rest in the fridge. Cook the onions and the peppers, and then we will crack the eggs. So I think I said earlier that the onion was going to be used for both the biscuits and this casserole, but I think I only ended up using it for the breakfast casserole, so I don't know why I said that earlier. I'm sorry for lying. I am just cooking these up until they're nice and soft, and then I'm going to crack open 10 eggs for this. This breakfast casserole is definitely the more healthy one of the 3. Well, I mean, all 3 are pretty healthy, but this one is the most healthy. It's pretty low carb, and then it has a lot of vegetables, has the butternut squash, and it's going to have the peppers and the onions. So this one is really, really nutritious and nutrient dense, whereas the other ones are a little more fun and a little bit higher carb. Not saying that there's anything wrong with carbs, but this one is definitely the more nutritious of the 3. Then the peppers just get added, and those get cooked down really well as well. And then we are going to add it to the eggs. And if you want to increase the protein content, you can add some cottage cheese to this. And then after adding it, you can use an immersion blender to blend it all up so you don't have the chunky cottage cheese texture. You could also add egg whites to it, but I feel like it affects the texture too much. Now is the time to bring everything all together. I am crumbling up the rest of this pack of bacon and then pouring in the rest of the sausage and ground beef mixture, and then pouring in the cooked butternut squash along with the onions and the peppers. I'm using 2 baking dishes to cook this, so one can go in the freezer and then the other one just goes right in the fridge. And just pouring it in even amounts between the 2. You just have to make sure you're getting the guts of the casserole split up evenly between the 2. And as a final step, I am adding some delicious cheddar cheese to the top. And I completely forgot to add salt and pepper to the egg mixture, so that's what I am doing right now. And that gets put in the oven at 400 degrees, and you just have to watch it until the egg sets. And this is what it ended up looking like. Get all the moisture off. This is how the biscuits turned out. I was able to just cut them individually. After the breakfast casserole is fully cooled down, I cut it up into individual pieces and wrapped it with parchment paper and just threw it in the freezer so I can just pull it out. And the cottage cheese oat pancakes are always a hit in our house. My toddler and my 1-year-old love them. They're so filling and delicious.